All right, we're live on Thursday night. It's been a while since we've been live here on Up on the Bars discussion. I'm Roy Bain, and tonight we have a special guest from Racelogic Chassis Schools. You've seen us all talking about it over the last week or so. It's Brian Littleton from Racelogic Chassis Schools. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Roy.
Yeah. Well, we had Joey Ridgway Sr. already says hello. We had you on when we first started the show, but we were still kind of finding our way of what we were doing and got a little offside track and had to circle around. So this is the first time that you and I have actually got to sit down and talk one-on-one with this. I'm pretty excited about tonight. I want to do some house cleaning real quick with the Tri-State Pro Stocks. You're going to be seeing a schedule change coming out here in the next week or so with everybody with the Tri-State Pro Stocks. We're not going to be racing at Chico on March 5th. The management that took over out there, everybody knows that Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet took over Chico, and they're kind of limiting on what they want hours wise for the track and all that stuff. So they want to make sure that they stay under the 3 hour mark. So they kind of shifted focus. Also, everybody knows we launched the Logos Up Speed Union TV. Myself and Jay Bryant did that. All you drivers with the Tri-State, if you'll contact me through Messenger or whatever after the show, we have a deal for all your drivers to pay your dues with the Tri-State Pro Stock and also get a subscription to our Speed Union TV. So contact me, all that stuff. So, yeah. But anyway, that's enough of the housekeeping. Want to make sure everybody got that out, and you'll see all the stuff coming out this week. Now, Brian, I met you, 3 years ago or 4 years ago?
Probably 4, I bet.
Yeah, out in Vegas at your last show out there, and or your last school out there. I have to tell you, by the end of the night, you'll know why Brian is so popular. I can promise you. But I can tell you, his school, I went there, and Kelly Shryock was the instructor out there. And in the first 30 minutes, I learned I didn't do a single thing when we put our car together right. Nothing. I mean, you learned in the first 30 minutes you're in for a ride, and get ready because there's so much good information that comes out of us. But I want to get into, Brian, how did you get started in what you're doing? And I want to hear your background story because it's pretty amazing for those of y'all that haven't heard it.
Well, Roy, I started this is the 27th year that I've done them. Been doing classes. And the first one I ever done, I had a friend that raced for a living back 27 years ago in a modified when you could, actually he made a good living doing it. And I never had the money to sponsor him. So, I always just went with him and helped him. And then I always noticed a lot of people always asking him questions. He was kind of the go-to guy. He won one of the first big modified races ever put on in history. It was in North Dakota, 30,000 to win, 20 something years ago. So anyway, I told him, I was like, and he was a school teacher. I mean, he was actually, that was his, he actually taught school. And I said, man, we need to do some type of class or something, and try to help these people. And that kind of be my way of sponsoring you. Well, our first class, we done it 27 years ago here in my hometown, and didn't even know what we were doing, kind of like what you were saying when you started this deal. We kind of threw together 2 or 3 pages of stuff and charged $25 a head, and I think we had 30 or 40 people in the class. And what's crazy, Roy, that's where it started. And every year it changed a little bit. He stayed with me for he raced full-time for about 10, 15 years, and then he quit racing as much, and I just kind of started branching out and, just got with the right people, people that was willing to help racers. This racing deal is hard, and, good information is hard to come by. And I always felt like, if I could give good information at a fair price, I don't have to do this for a living. I told you, that, Roy, and everybody who knows me knows that I got a full-time job that I'm sitting here was doing right before we got on. So, I always wanted to do it to help that Saturday night racer. And, I would like to know how many students has come through my classes over 27 years. There's thousands, and I just hope, that out of them, them thousands, maybe some of them were able to improve their program a little bit. Maybe not go buy the new part that they thought they needed to get fast. Maybe they just car something wasn't right, and we've had guys that's, came through. I mean, every year I always hear a success story about a guy who won a big race, and he'd never won a race before, never won a heat race before. So that's why I do it, Roy. And like I said, it started 27 years ago, and now it's got to a point to where we sell out every year. Uh, uh, and my time's limited. We talked last night a little bit that racing starts so early now. I only have a few weeks in there to be able to do these classes, at least down south and out east. Well, even out your way because you guys start early. So
Mhm.
I try to cram 2 or 3 classes in when I can, and they always sell out. Something I pride myself on is we don't overbook these deals where there's 200 people in a room and not everybody gets to answer, ask questions and stuff. So uh, anyway, we usually have a smaller crowd, and then now something we started doing. Kate Dillon at Crane Insider. I know you've had her on and talked to
Yep.
her a few times. Uh, she videos all the classes now, and then she uploads them, and she puts them into segments like front end segment, shock segment, rear end. So you can go in, purchase it, watch it as many times you want, rewind it, fast forward, or whatever. For the people who can't attend, maybe somebody in Oregon that just couldn't fly out there, or wherever we're doing them at that year, so they can go on and purchase that, and they're all live right now. So anybody that wanted to do that can go to uh, racelogic.vip and purchase any of the previous classes.
Well, and we're going to get into. I'm going to run some comments. Don Martin II says, "Doing a drive by. Love what you do, Roy." I'm going to read all the comments. Austin Robertson, sup, buddy? Don Martin, bummer. Talked to Rich Hood at Orland, talking about the race at Chico. Then we got Wade Cross. Thanks, Brian and Roy, for all you do. Now I'm going to get in, and Jason Howard says Racelogic School is worth it. So you've already got people that have been into your schools and all this stuff. And I'm going to put Brian on the spot, and I know how kind of a person he is. So if he gets mad at me, I don't mean to upset you.
No.
But we got the first comment, and I know Brian, this guy, I'm going to have him contact you or me off air, and I'm going to pull up his comment right here. And you can answer it, and we'll take care of this gentleman right here, even if I have to do it. Chase Al, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm going to say Al. He says, I'm the guy that never wins. How much will a win cost me? LOL.
Well, Chase, you contact me after the class, and buddy, we'll see what we can do to help you out. I'm never you never know what I'll pull out of my hat. So if you're a guy that struggled, that's a guy I want to help. I'll figure out something for you to get faster.
Yeah, Chase. Chase? Can you put a comment in there on what class of cars you race? That's very helpful. I myself race pro stocks. Brian does. He does so many variety of classes. Give us a list of what you've done, because I mean, this is what everybody needs to know. Because it's not just a modified class. It's just not sport modifieds. Tell us what all classes you cover and things like that this year.
Well, just this year, Roy. This year alone, we out in the east part of the world and south, the crate late models is huge. I mean, it's a I see you said IMCA mods.
Yep.
Crate late models is huge out in the east and south. The largest growing class there is out there. So the last 2 years we've done the crate late model deal, and they both sold out. It's big. I know it's not as big in your world where you're at. And then the weekend after, we do the street stock deal every year. Justin McCree's one of them. Wade Cross, which commented earlier, shot guy. I know he does some stuff for you. Robbie Bilberry's another shot guy. That's one of our instructors, and he actually his full-time job. He works for NASA. He's an engineer for NASA. He don't like me to talk about that because it embarrasses him, but that's a true story. And anyway, Ben Baker's always there, and Steve Hendren with Hendren Race Engines was there this year, and he was a huge help. So anyway, what we do a street stock deal, and I've had guys ask, "Is it IMCA? Is it?" Well, listen, it's we cover about 90% metric stuff, and they also did cover some leafs because I know leaf spring is really big out your way, and that's something I think you're going to see start to come back around a little bit more. Anyway, I was reading his.
Yeah, I know. Got some sidetracked. Sorry.
That was pretty funny. I hadn't had anybody say it quite like that, but
Yeah.
anyway, our street stock deal that we done this year covered a lot of, there's so many variations across America on street stocks. You got IMCA, USRA, your guys' rules. So, at the end of the night, it's still a metric race car. So everything we do, we try to cover a metric race car, whether it's inboard shocks, outboard, all that kind of stuff. So that's the two we done this year. Last year we done strictly an IMCA class with Mike Nichols. Most of you that's been in round racing knows he's like 11-time national champion, and he's done about 4 of these with me. And so anyway, we done IMCA deal, and in the years past, I've done IMCA mods. I've done Northern Sport mods, and I done, which you guys probably don't know a lot about it, but micro sprints. I done one of them a couple of years ago.
Uh, it's funny you said micro sprints. There's a lot of tracks that we've started traveling to in California since we started doing this tri-state. We see a lot of the micro sprints, and I didn't know what they were. Never seen them. If you haven't ever seen them, they're quite entertaining to watch. I can tell you that. That's very cool.
See, and, I'm sorry, Roy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been subjected to a whole lot of new cars out of California that you don't see so much up here. We just actually seen a really cool late model class at Stockton on February 5th. Actually, I think they had 8 or 9 late models over there. That was kind of a big deal for out here. I mean, late models have kind of shifted focus, and now that's kind of where we're getting into with the pro stocks is we're racing like they were in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's kind of making that circle back around. So,
yeah, I've tried a little bit of everything through the years. It's kind of, I go to whatever, like I said, with me having a full-time job, got a new grandbaby, my daughter got married, just had a lot going on this year that's kind of slowed me down a half a step. So, but I want to get, my goal is to go back west again. We've been to Vegas twice. I know it's just such a long commute. Everything stars has to line up to get my whole crew out there, and but we really want to come back out there. I got a lot of friends out there. Jay Bryant, he's come to a lot of my classes through the years, always supported me. So
yes,
we're definitely going to make a trip back out your way at some point.
Yes, Jay is, I know he went to several of yours last year. I put up there racelogic.vip, being your website for anybody that wants to look at your online stuff. Jay does a lot for the racing community. You have introduced me to a lot of people through this, like that have been on the show, like Dave Hammond, Steve Hendren come on here. Well, Steve Hendren's local to out here as well, because he raced at Antioch for years and his family built engines out there, things like that. Wade Cross, we've had Wade Cross on here. Awesome chalk guy if you're looking for shocks, FX suspensions. Then somebody I ran into him, or I found out I watched him on your show, and I ran into him at Cottage Grove at the racetracks, Vaughn Stone from Pit Skylights.
Yeah, great guy. He always gives away stuff in my classes. He came to 2 last year. He was so far behind with COVID and things that he couldn't make it out there this year, but very big supporter of what I do. And he gave away a couple sets of lights this year. And, really appreciate what he does, for the racer.
Yeah, well, and Vaughn's a sponsor of this show here now too. So, Vaughn Stone Pit Skylights, amazing products. You get a couple of lights that you can mount on your trailer. They're 40,000 lumens to light up your pit stalls. Makes it easy to work on your car. It makes it safer in the pits, so you see if any kids run out or anything like that. So, got an amazing product. He just started building his carbon fiber line, so make sure you check those out. Pitskylights.com. I am going to show Brian something on my phone, if you can see it. I don't know if you can see the closed captionings pop up on the bottom of this. So I have to tell the story the first time I talked to Brian on the phone. This is a funny story, and I tell this story often. I want to watch Brian's reaction. So if y'all haven't met my pit crew, Dwayne and Lacey and Ken that shows up, they're all hearing impaired. Everybody that helps with my car is hearing impaired. I don't know sign language. The sign language I know we're not going to do on here because it's not necessarily appropriate. But my buddy Dwayne wanted to go to the chassis school down there, and he says, "Hey, can you ask him if they've got an interpreter to sign the class while they're going on?" And I'm thinking, okay, not a problem. I called Brian up out of the blue. I said, "Hey, man, I said, I'm coming to your class in Vegas. I said, my pick guy's coming, and he's deaf, and he wants to ask, do you have somebody to sign the classes or an interpreter for the classes?" Silence on the other end.
Yeah.
And he goes, now, what did you ask? I said, do you have an interpreter for somebody that's hearing impaired that can sign the class? Silence again for a few minutes. And he goes, listen, if you know Brian's voice now, this is what makes this even better. He goes, I don't want to offend you when I ask this. He said, but I need to know something. He goes, are you fucking with me? It's like, no, I'm being serious. He's like, okay, I'm just making sure. I said, in all my years of doing this, I have never been asked that question. And I thought maybe somebody was messing with me. It's like, no, I'm being very serious. He goes, oh, he's like, well, then started. That's really cool. He says, he called me back a couple of days later and he goes, I've been thinking about this. He said, just bring him and we'll do it. And I said, he said, he can read lips. If he can sit up on the front row, he can read lips and get stuff out. He's like, okay, we can make that happen. And he says, man, I don't care if you give me $10. I don't care if you pay for the class, whatever. Just bring him. This is my way of giving back to the racers and helping all this stuff. And then he gave him a really nice T-shirt and some other stuff, made him feel very welcome there. And that did so much for him. It was unbelievable. He learned so much out of that school from that too, and had such a good time. It was awesome. So thank you for that,
Yeah.
especially.
Well, I try to pick and choose. Me and you's talked off air a lot, and people's always asking, for sponsorships, and usually 90% of them go about it the wrong way. And so, I pick and choose when I give and what I give, and a lot of things I do people don't even know about because I don't do it because I want any recognition out of it. But I try to let I may let somebody in the class that or a young kid or something. I'd rather see them sitting there in that classroom than out on the street somewhere. So if they're there learning about race cars, that. So anyway, I always try to do things to help people out and give back where I can.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Now that brings me to another question. We talked, I would say probably 8 months ago, and you kind of had a vision in your mind, and I don't know if you want to talk about that or bring that up on the air about doing some stuff to give back to the racing community outside of your school. If you want to bring that up, I'd love to talk about it because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, COVID just has just screwed up everything for everybody. I'm still probably looking for some kid, somebody maybe with some special needs or something that I can take to a race or send to a race somewhere and let him, I've got some, I know a lot of people in the industry, so, I could probably get him, let him be on the inside of of a late model team or something and let him, be a part of it that night and go through the haulers. And, I don't know, it's just something that I've been thinking about. And I just got to get the right situation, the right kid, the right everything for it to make it happen. But that's something that I still want to do. Is to just find that right. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be anybody with special needs, but if that is, it'd make it even better, I think. But I would fund or support, maybe pay for his flights and, some different things. And I got some other people that are on board that kind of a silent partner that's agreed to do some stuff. So I'm going to find somebody out there that really needs this, not just somebody that just wants to go off to the races and be in something cool. I want somebody that can really be special to them.
Right. And I think everybody that's in here that has a race car, I don't think anybody in here is going to disagree with this statement. When you go to a racetrack and the kids come in the pits afterwards and they get to crawl in your race car and sit in the seat or do something, there is nothing better than the face of that kid. Like when you start the car up and let them rev it up one time. If you haven't experienced that, take the time and let some 8 or 9-year-old, whatever, in your car. Let them sit there and just bump the gas pedal one time, because their eyes get about that big around. And just like us, they're hooked from then on. I encourage every single person out here to do that, because if you're having a bad night, I promise you that will make your night better at the end of it, right there, just by that 5 minutes with somebody. It's amazing what you can do in that 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna find. I've done some things, and a couple of years ago, I was able to send a kid, the Chili Bowl in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Of course, Roy knows where I live out here. It's only a couple of hours from me, so I was able to send a kid that talked about it for weeks in advance. He wasn't able. His parents couldn't afford to send him, but I was able to buy him some tickets and give him a little money on his way. And he was actually kin to a good friend of mine. And so anyway, I was able to send him to that. He talked about it weeks before. He talked about it weeks after. I didn't go out and publicly announce that because, like I said, I don't do these things because I want any recognition out of them. I do it because I want to do it. I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to do it. So I pick and choose when I can do it, and I try to do it when I can.
Yep. So I got to run a sponsor commercial here real quick, because without sponsors, we couldn't do what we're doing. And I always make sure I cover this. It's Rick Workman of Workman's Communication. He got me set up with StreamYard, all of our internet services for the road. So thank you, Rick, for all you've done to help out.
Tired of calling multiple companies to complete your low voltage projects? Minimize the hassle by calling Workman Communications, your locally owned one-stop shop for all low voltage needs. We tackle everything from commercial and residential data, telephone cabling to access control installation, CCTV, alarms, and audio-video solutions. With no job too big or too small, we'll ensure your project will be completed to your standards with precision quality results. Let's start a new project together.
So thank you, Rick, definitely for doing all that stuff. I know we talked some before, and I know when we were in the chassis school, Ben, and we'll have to go through and explain who all these people are, but Kelly Shryock and all the people that taught the classes talked about the progression of the knowledge for like the modifieds and the stuff in the Midwest trickling out in either direction and things like that. And you and I had talked about stuff to bridge the gap and things like that. Have you thought any more about that and ways to do that to where we can help share that information?
Well, Roy, I think the biggest deal, I was always against doing the online stuff. I've had in the years past IMCA TV and a few of them approached me, and I just kind of stayed away from it. I always felt like it would get abused. One guy buy it and 10 watch it, and Kate Dillon was actually the one who and some other friends said, Ryan, you really need to look at that. And of course, this was right before COVID. We didn't know COVID had existed when we decided to do this. And, I was able to bring some of the technology to other parts of the country that wouldn't normally get to see it. Like I said, a guy in Oregon that couldn't afford to fly to wherever, Alabama, wherever we're doing a class at, a lot of times we do them toward the south and the east. So I think doing the online version, and there's some other stuff out there that I think's good. I mean, I tell people to be careful, of some of them out there that are, some classes and different things, just to make sure they're legit and they're not trying to say something. But when I started doing an online deal, it just blow you away at the people who bought it that wasn't able to come or, couldn't afford to come. So I think we was able to bridge that gap like you're talking about. And Kate was the one that said, hey, we need to do this. And I said, well, I don't know how to do it. And she said, well, I can do the back end of it. You just keep doing what you're doing. So, she came on board and now we do all of our classes and put them up online and people can purchase them. And so I think that was a big way of sharing some of that technology that's out there, because, things are, you guys don't get to race. I mean, in Oregon, I know California does, but you guys don't get to race as much as, you go in the Midwest and down south, hell, they race about every weekend, it seems like year round.
Well, those guys, and I think when Wade was on here, we talked about that. Those guys, they work during the winter, save up their money, and then when summertime hits, it's racing. They start racing on Wednesday, and they race through Wednesday through Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday back at the shop getting ready to go, and then they turn around and do it again. It's and I know I watch some of the shows and things and the highlights, and man, those guys put in a lot of miles, and I'd love to be able to drive like that, but I can't do it. I'm glad for those guys that they do.
Sure. And, I think that's the deal with the South and we went to North Carolina this year and with all the NASCAR technology out there, you would, and there is a lot of knowledge out there, but we was able to kind of hit a different part of the country that I've never been able to hit because I've had some guys and I'm sure some of them will be watching, some of my buddies from New York, they came to a class a few years ago and I asked them, I said, hell, I didn't know anybody in New York race. And he laughed and he said, well, most people think of New York City. And he said, I'm upstate New York. He said, I probably live in about the same type rural town that you live in. And so anyway, we got to actually touch a lot of guys who came to some other classes that actually drove 16, 18, 20 hours. So I promised them a couple of years ago that I would come closer to them. I felt like I owed it to them. Anybody that's willing to drive that far, I feel like I owed to get closer to them. So we went to the North Carolina, Virginia border kind of this year and done a great street stock class and got to reach a lot of them Pennsylvania and Virginia and New York guys that don't typically get the kind of information that we were giving out. It's been kind of limited on what type of schools are out there.
Well, I'll be honest with you. My first dirt track experience as an adult was in New York. Canandaigua, New York, land of legends right there. We just happened to see the sprint cars on the way home, went back, and man, it's like crack cocaine. I say this all the time. I went once and been addicted to it ever since. So I got to see Tim McCready and Bob McCready and all those guys were up there racing the big block modifieds and all that. That's a cool class to watch race. We don't have it out here, but if you ever get a chance to see them in person, man, go see it because it's a great race. It is fun to watch.
Yeah, so. Racing out there. Definitely the big block modifieds is something to see, but Roy, we talked and I never wanted this deal to be about me. I always, it was never about Brian Littleton. Racelogic wasn't. It was about something to give back to racing. That's about the only. I used to hunt and fish when I was younger, and as I got older, I just seemed like I didn't have time. And this racing was the only thing that hobby that I ever really had. Other than my kids and stuff, growing up, watching them grow up. But, I've just been lucky to have some really smart people that are willing to give back to racing because I'm telling you, and this, there's not a lot of that out there. It's not, there's just not enough good information, a guy like yourself that's, you don't get to race 4 or 5 nights a week and you don't have the opportunity to learn all these things that these chassis builders and the people that I have involved spend hours and hours, trying to learn. And it's hard to find guys that want to give out that information. I've told them all when I started doing this, all the crew I got now, listen, if you're not 100% on board, then we're not going to do it because I don't want you to go in there and give you the basic information that everybody in the world knows and not help racers. So, I've been lucky to just get guys like Ben Baker. I wouldn't be where I'm at today being of AFCO. I know Roy's been around him. He can talk about a drag boat. He can talk about, sprint cars, leaf spring cars. He's probably one of the brightest guys in all of dirt racing, I would say.
Yeah. That was Tom Levitt that said, thank you, Brian Littleton and Racelogic. And then Ron Crisafulli, one of the photographers down in California, just seen him at Stockton on the 5th of February. Hey, Ron, how are you doing tonight? Michael Colson said hi. So if y'all don't know who Ben Baker is, you can catch him a lot of times on Crate Insider. He pops on there periodically, but he is a engineer for AFCO. He makes a lot of interesting stuff. If you ever get a chance to talk to, hey, Travis Hoppus, that's a promoter from Southern Oregon Speedway on there. So, hey, Travis. He has all kinds of stuff. If you ever want to learn about brakes, spend 30 minutes with Ben. Let him tell you about brakes and master cylinders. You may think you know brakes. Trust me, you don't know brakes. You don't know what they can do, what they can change. It, that 30 minutes that he just talked about master cylinders, it was just like, wow, you have no idea that stuff's in there. And that's what I like about your school too, when you go there. And this is what I tell everybody. You start at the front bumper and you work all the way to the rear bumper. There's not a piece of the car y'all don't talk about in some shape, form, or fashion. Maintenance programs, you name it. I mean, the one thing that stuck in my mind, and I hear all the time, that Ben Brock talked about was with radiators. A water pressure gauge. Never thought about a water pressure gauge. They don't come standard on your gauges, things like that. But just having that water pressure gauge right there, I thought that was just a little tidbit of information that most people don't get. And I mean, if you take it's what he said in school or in the class. He said, if you take a rock to the radiator, you lose your water. Your temperature gauge may not show that you're overheating. It may stick, do whatever. But if you got a pressure gauge, when you see you lose water pressure, you've lost water, to come off the track. It could be the difference of saving an engine and not saving an engine. Common sense. I know everybody's going to say it's common sense, but if you don't know it, you don't know it. And that's one of the things that he said that stuck in my mind there. So what have you learned from Ben? I'm going to ask you because you don't own a race car. So let's go that way.
I think what sticks in my mind is there's some of the same, like you said, he talks about how to clean radiators. Ben does a lot of development stuff. They bought Longacre a couple of years ago,
right?
And he's done a lot of the development with a lot of their gauges and stuff. I think Ben, honestly, he's probably got more of a passion for racing than anybody I've been around. He loves this stuff. And I'm being honest. I call him about midsummer and say, Ben, I want to go here, here, and here. What do you think? And he said, yeah, I can make it. And whatever I do, he tries his best to be a part of it. Actually, I won't hardly do a class unless he can be a part of it. I mean, I feel that good about what he brings to the table, just because, golly, the guy can talk about. I've heard him talk about drag cars and drag boats. I'm thinking, how in the hell you know something about them? But he did. AFCO's a lot bigger than dirt racing.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, Ben's a very intelligent guy to love and passion. He's gone, I think, about 200 nights a year or something. It's crazy how much he's gone away from home. Travels all over the country to different shows and different teams and tracks. So he learns what everybody's doing out there, and he's willing to come back and help during the winter to all the racers out there that come through these classes.
Right. That's from Vaughn Stone right there too, by the way. I know you can't see the name, but that's Vaughn talking there. So, and then you bring Dave Hammond along. We have recently had somebody on here that was talking about with the way NASCAR's moving to this next generation car. And now you're going to see a lot of the engineers being taken out of NASCAR because I don't know how much you hear the stories where you buy your parts just like they do us. You bolt them on and you go race. I know there's probably a little more in depth to that. They make it sound like that. But they're saying they've taken the engineering aspect out of it, and you're starting to see more engineering come out to the dirt side of things. Have y'all already started seeing that where you're at? And I know you've been to North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee this year. So I'm sure y'all are starting to see some things.
Yeah, most people, like I said, the late model world is a lot bigger out in my part and on East, but, Jonathan Davenport, and even, everybody knows Kyle Larson drives that late model. Well,
right.
Rumley, who's his crew chief and used to be Jonathan Davenport's crew chief, is actually engineer by trade. So, yes, there's absolutely, like it or not, there is a lot of that technology that's flowed on into dirt racing. Sometimes I can't say I always agree with it, but then you got guys like you mentioned, Dave Hammond. Dave is not an engineer by trade, but I'll put him up against anybody in the United States. The guy, he's called me. He's liable to call me 9 or 10 at night and say, Brian, I just thought about a part I want to build, and he'll tell me about it. He said, what do you think? And of course, hell, he knows I don't. that I'm not the chassis guy, but he's designed something in his head. And when I first met Dave, it was about 6 years ago in Kansas City at the class we done. And he was, I mean, he probably had, I don't know, 50 sets of plates out there, his setup plates that he has. Uh, Really was just a guy that I gave a chance to through another friend of mine. I just felt like he could bring something to the table. And man, what did I? I mean, if you get a chance, you need to listen to Dave Hammond for a while. You know, I always give him a hard time because he's rough around the edges. You ain't ever got to worry about where you stand with a guy because he will let you know. You know, but man, his
Yes.
heart's in the right place in racing, and he's designed stuff. And he doesn't have an engineering background. I mean, he did work for NASCAR. He came through the ranks there, but he didn't go to college. He just kind of learned how to do things on his own. And he'll draw something out, and then take it to somebody, and they'll CAD it out and build it. That's kind of the way he's done things. So you don't see much of that anymore.
Well, I'll tell you how Dave strikes me, and that this is, Dave, if you're listening, it's not meant to be insultive. It's not at all. I'm going to go back to, I grew up at a little farm in New Mexico. You're in Arkansas, kind of in the backwoods. Dave's one of those guys that, just like my granddad, needs something done. He'll go out there and figure out how to do it. It don't matter if he's got scrap metal laying out there in the pile. He'll go cut it up, do whatever, make some kind of crazy contraption and make it work, to make a plow work or tractor work or something like that out of necessity. Necessity being he don't want to drive 25 miles into town to get a part and come back out, so just make something work like that. Dave strikes me as that kind of guy. He just does whatever, but his stuff is amazing. If you haven't yet used a set of his setup plates, amazing stuff. I mean, you learn more about your car in 30 minutes on a set of those plates than you will doing anything else. You'll know exactly. You may think you've got it right, but when you get it on there and get accurate measurements, you may be way off. I mean, I like his little videos. If you get a chance to go to hammondmotorsports.com, he puts out little, 15, 20-minute videos to help you out. He's got all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah, he's done a lot. He had, long story short, we was at Kate's trade show out in North Carolina, and Dave ended up with kidney stones about the size of a damn dime, I think. And anyway, he fell out at there. They actually hauled him off in an ambulance, and then he not got home. So, and the classes were the next 2 weekends in a row. So he wasn't able to make it to my class. Man, it just made him sick. He called me every day, man, Brian, I wish I could be there. He loves being a part of what I'm doing. And so anyway, he wasn't able to make it, but he also last couple of weeks has done some videos for the late model world, and then he done several videos over the street stock stuff, the stock car stuff that Kate, he sent them over to Kate, and she posted them on. So if you buy the online class, he's also got some of his videos on there, even though he wasn't there in person. So I appreciate him doing that.
So in all of your years, and I've seen some of your names that you've had instruct. I hadn't seen all of them, all that. Who is one of your biggest status-wise instructors you've had?
Well, like I said, probably anybody in racing world has heard of Billy Moyer at some point. Mm-hmm. Probably arguably the most, the great one of the, Scott Blomqvist, Billy Moyer. Like I said, here in this part of the world is, late model racing, but Billy Moyer Sr. Was the biggest. That was something. He was my hero growing up. I live in Arkansas. He was in Batesville, Arkansas, and I watched him race since I was a kid. And what I always respected about him, he always won the right way. You didn't hear about controversy of drugs or getting in trouble or tire doping, or he always won the right way. And I had an opportunity through some friends to. It was the last class he ever done. He's pretty much 99% retired now. So a couple of years ago, I was able to get him and his son together and do a class in Batesville. It was probably a personal thing with me, just because I watched. He was my hero growing up. That's who I went every time I had opportunity to watch him race. I always went. So being able to get his knowledge, I don't know if you ever seen a picture of a trophy room, but I promise you ain't ever seen anything like it. I mean, you couldn't even walk around in it. I mean, he just trophies everywhere. Over
I
800.
I, I recently seen it. They showed his little stuff like that, and we're back here. We're gonna have to hit another sponsor spot here. I'm gonna run one for Jay Bryant, Jay's Mobile Welding. All of us out here, and Bryant all the way back Arkansas knows Jay. What a great supporter of the sport.
Thank you, Jerry Bryant of Jay's Mobile Welding and Fabrication, for all you do to support the Tri-State Pro Stock Series and myself. Jay is the title sponsor this year for the Tri-State Pro Stock Series. Jay owns a welding and fabrication business in Sacramento, California, can do all kinds of welding. If you need some welding repairs done in your car at the track, he usually has a welder available in his track. He also provides sheet metal to racers, so if you need any of these services, contact Jay at Jay's Mobile Welding and Fabrication.
So, but yeah, then I know you had Frank Flood teaching your micro class, and I know you said he had a ridiculously amount of wins too. I'm not sure. I'm not even going to try to quote numbers. I just remember.
I think about 500 wins in that micro deal, and he's from the Tulsa area, which goes back to the Chili Bowl. I know everybody's heard of that across America.
Right.
So yeah, Frank Flood. Mike Nichols is another one. Like I said, I think he won his 11th national title in the IMCA World in a stock car. He's done several deals with me. I actually got a list. That's my phone going off.
Yeah.
I actually had a list one time of all the guys through the years that I've done classes with, and you sit back and look, it's pretty amazing. I always, try to go for guys who actually race. A lot of them build chassis, so they can relate with a racer. Besides just somebody who has never raced before, never built cars before. But Jeff Taylor's another one. He's won that IMCA Super Nationals a couple of times. He's somebody I've had with me. Matthew Lubes, I think he's won. He just won the Northern Sport IMCA Sport Mod National Champion this last year. I think that's about 4 or 5 he's won. So, had a lot of names through the years, and been fortunate, really.
Yeah. So you mentioned going to North Carolina this year. I know that was. We talked before you got that all booked out. I think you went to Kate's trade show and actually did a lot of networking out there in North Carolina that led to that. Where did you have the school? Because I saw some pictures of the class. It looked like a really cool facility. Where did you hold that class at?
Well, actually, it was in Littleton, North Carolina, and that's my last name. So it was kind of out in Raleigh. I had a guy. It's funny. He's been texting me right here, but a guy named Jeff Kidd out there. He'd been hounding Wade about, man, y'all need to come out here. Y'all need to come out here. And me and Wade talked about it, and Justin McCree talked about it. I'm like, man, I really want to go. And like I was telling you, I had a lot of guys from Pennsylvania, New York that had been driving across the world to these classes. So anyway, long story short, we ended up finding this location. It was a huge shop. It used to be what did he tell me? I believe this building used to be where they manufacture clothing or something years ago, and he turned it into a shop, and he had a body shop and a parts place. But yeah, I was in Littleton, North Carolina. It's about a couple hours, hour and a half from Raleigh, North Carolina, about 3 hours from Charlotte area, Mooresville, where all NASCAR world is. So and it snowed 2 inches, and you'd have thought a blizzard came through. Hey, Walmart shut down. I'm not exaggerating. I hope some of these guys are watching. They still laugh about it. Walmart shut down. We couldn't find a place to eat. Hey, I had to order pizza in, Roy, for Saturday's class, pizza for lunch. I done had it ordered a month ahead of time. Called the lady a couple of days before. Yeah, we got pizzas. We was going to go pick them up. It snowed that night before. None of the pizza places were open. Closed. 2 inches. I'm not kidding you. It was 2 inches. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? I got 7,500 guys sitting over here hungry. So ended up being a little store across the street open, and we went and got hot dogs and cooked them last minute and fed everybody. But that was a wild story. I mean, 2 inches of snow shut the world down. You thought a blizzard come through there.
Well, in the last year, you had a blizzard in Nebraska when you were there. Jay got
Oh my
held
gosh!
over for 3 days getting home, and they
Yeah,
had a real blizzard in Nebraska.
I told Wade next time I come to Nebraska, there's going to be some numbers in front of that zero. It was negative when we were there. I said, I'm not going back 0 or below. There's got to be a 1 or 10. I mean, a 2 or something in front of that 0.
So I want to ask you a question because we were talking about trying to do a class out this way, and things like that. Have you thought about doing one later on in the year, like maybe a March time frame?
Yeah, that's definitely an option. It would help me too because of like I said, I work and stuff, and it's hard for me to take multiple weekends. I can take weekends off. It's just multiple in a row hurts me, on my regular job. So, yeah, I mean that could definitely be an option to try to do something. Late February, early March would probably be a whole lot better.
Yeah, because most of the racing really kicks off mid-March, mid-April, depending on where you're at. But the problem where we have here is like when in Vegas, we drove down there. If you have it in January, Jesus, we get blizzards out here. We get 12 and 14 inches of snow, and you can't always get through the mountain passes. I think, man, I had some friends that got stuck in Reno. They went there for a weekend, and they ended up spending a week there because they couldn't get back over the hill to California there on Donner Pass. And, we have winters out here. So doing it in March after everything kind of starts thawing out makes a lot more sense out here if you could do that. But I know with your instructors, your racing season starts back there in March. So getting somebody that can spend a weekend away.
Yeah, that's the hard part. There's some time in late February. I think that would definitely be doable. Like Ben, I was texting him earlier with AFCO. I'm not, he goes, you got speed weeks going on in Florida right now with all the Lucas Oil and stuff. So, but yeah, I think there's some weekends in late February, early March that we can make work. And this as well as anybody. It takes a lot. People. It takes a lot of time and money and everything to be able to go. Everybody who helps me here locally all live in Arkansas, Oklahoma area, and they travel.
Mhm.
So it just takes a lot. So I have to make sure that it's that I know we'll have enough students and because overhead so much and like I said, I've sold out every class for the last 5 years plus. I've been really blessed to be able to, when I put it out, usually within the first couple of months, it's sold out.
Yeah. Well, Chase Al, if you're still watching, make sure you message either me or Brian off air. If you message me, I'll get you in contact with Brian at Racelogic. Yeah, that's his first monster truck driver I've had here watching. I have a friend that's building a monster truck here in town and all that stuff. So it's really cool. I love monster trucks. I don't think anybody doesn't. So, but it's kind of cool switching out to a modified. That's a whole different discipline to drive it, in my opinion. Way different.
Yeah.
So, but now what do you see going on next year for you? I mean, have you thought about, I know you're already thinking about next year, whether you admit it or not. I know you're already looking that far out there.
My wheels are always spinning. Definitely going to stay with the Cray Lake model deal. That's just too big of a deal, which I know it doesn't affect a lot of your viewers. I understand that, but we're definitely going to stay with that. There may be some big things coming with that. And the street stock world, to me, well, it's just kind of near and dear to me, I say, because, that's mostly your local Saturday night guys. So we'll definitely do something in that world. And then I don't know. I kind of want to get back. I know that, and me and you talked a little bit about this, the sport mod deal is really big, especially all through California and especially all through the Iowa, Nebraska, all through that part of the world. So I may go back to doing something there. And, I know you guys have been on me for a long time about coming back out your way, and that could definitely be a possibility too. I think it's something that you guys would really be willing to support, I think.
Right. And that's, and with our class of cars, especially, we have 3 links and then we have a lot of leaf spring cars. Getting somebody that's really hot on the leaf springs, I guarantee you there's a whole group of people that would stand in line to watch that because they are studying those things, trying to make them better. Manny Avila, there's a ton of those guys that are running leaf springs still. It be honest with you, they're kicking some of our asses out here with those leaf springs. So I have to give them credit because if I don't, they get pissed if you don't acknowledge that they're whooping up on us, but they are. So,
well, like I said, one of my instructors, Justin McCree, he's their rules are a lot different than y'all's, but he's working on a leaf spring car right now to run with the metric guys down south, and they got the 5,000 and 10,000 win shows all the time, and he said that he's going to change the game up a little bit. Everybody's kind of went to the metric deal and kind of followed his lead and, copied a lot of things. And now he's fixing to go off into another world here and see. So I think we'll have somebody that can definitely help them guys. I know Wade Cross started out in them and Ben is good. So I think the leaf spring deal will be just fine if we come out there.
Yeah. So I want to get into something else that Brian does with every one of his classes, and we talked a little bit, and I don't know what all he wants to share. Brian goes around and has met so many contacts through there. I don't know the guy's name, but with the fire suits from Velocity USA, you got some contacts through Bilstein Shocks. Vaughn Stone's another great contributor to all of this stuff. You mentioned that earlier. Tell everybody what you do at the classes and the things that you do, because besides teaching the class, this to me is just as important as what you get out of the class too, because people don't know about that.
It's something I started a few years back with actually Ben Baker was one of the first. I believe this year, I tried to do the math on it. I believe we gave away $30,000 worth of coupons, discounts, actual parts. Everybody in both classes went away with probably almost as I ain't gonna say exactly, but probably most what they paid to get there. Vaughn, like I said, gave away a set of lights in each class. I think that's about a $500 value. Bilstein Shocks, I met with him out in North Carolina, and we was doing. He knew about Racelogic, which I was kind of took back a little bit. I'm just an old guy from Arkansas that, was a nobody. And he's like, yeah, I know what you do. And I appreciate what you do. And so he gave away a set of shocks. Of course, some late model world shocks, about a $6,000 set of shocks to one guy. And then we also gave away a set of shocks in the street stock deal. So, man, it was unbelievable. We gave away half off a fire suit from Velocity. It's a $1,500 fire suit, so it only cost you $750. So, and then AFCO and Longacre was $200 off $400, $100 off $200 orders. So, that's something that that's the giving back part. I don't ask for a penny from none of these people like Vaughn Stone. I don't want their money. I want them to give me something to give away to a racer. I don't need money from them. I want to help somebody out. That may be the difference in them getting a race one weekend or not. If they need a new part, they can go buy it now and maybe get a discount on it.
Yeah. And I'm also going to tell you something else, and Brian doesn't talk about this much because he don't like to pull his horn. But when you go to his class, it doesn't matter if Ben Baker from AFCO's up there teaching a portion of the class, telling you should be buying certain – I'm just going to say you need certain master cylinders. He's not going to tell you you've got to go buy an AFCO master cylinder. He's going to tell you need a master cylinder with certain requirements. If a shock guy is telling you need to do this with your shocks, he's not going to tell you to buy my shocks to put it there. He's going to tell you need this to make the car work. Whether you get them from him or you get them from Fox Racing or whatever, it doesn't matter. When you go to the class, they're not selling their products to you. They're not trying to tell you if you don't buy my part, you're not going to win. That's not what it's about. The biggest emphasis on this class from me taken away as somebody that's never been is taking the time to get to know your car when you're in the shop. Every one of your instructors will tell you the race is won in the shop. It's not one on the track. It's one in the shop. If you look at any of the guys that are out there winning, they spend huge amounts of prep time in the shop every week on their car. they know exactly. And I'm going to tell you how ignorant I am. I went there and everybody asks you what your ride heights are on your car. The hell is ride heights? I have no idea. I didn't know what a ride heights were. Didn't know how to set them. Didn't know anything about it. You can't go up there and race with somebody that's up front if you don't have that knowledge. That's what I like about your school. It's geared towards somebody like me that didn't know what ride heights were. They sit down and they show you what ride heights are, what they mean, how you put it in place. That's what I like about your school. It's not, oh, you got to have this diametric curve on your shock and blah, blah. No, it's not super technical. It's geared towards somebody that may know not what you're doing, so that when you go out to work at your car, you know what you're looking at. And that's what I like about your school so much. I learned so much just in that. And
yeah, I mean, that was something that I told everybody when they came on board is, listen, if you need to sell something, I don't need you here. I mean, I don't need to sell anything. We're not going to sell shocks and chassis and the latest, coolest stuff. You know, if you want to talk to Dave Hammond after the class and buy, if you want to buy whatever he's got, then great. But it don't need to be about a selling deal. Like I said, I don't have to do these. I do them because I love to do them. Sure, I made a little money along the way, but it's not about the money. I mean, there's more to it than that. It's if I can help that old guy on Saturday night, maybe, get him a top 5 where he was a 10th place car or top 5 guy win a race. And then that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, Robert Him just said every day he's in there in the shop, and they just won, I believe his modified just won the race in Stockton on February 5th. I think Philip Shelby drove his modified and won, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I'm sorry, Robert, but I'm pretty sure that was what went down. So, there you go. Everybody, any of the guys that are there, they'll tell you that they spend hours upon hours of preparation, and that's making sure that your parts aren't bent, making sure things aren't just a little bit out of adjustment. And I like what Dave Hammond taught about the front end. You X the front end. You can find out in 5 minutes that, yeah, Robert Ham said, you're right. Thanks. Yes, that's what I thought. But with 4 measurements on your tape measure, if something's been in the front end right away. It's never knew that. That was a simple thing. And now that's the first thing we check when I walk in the shop, get down there and measure that. It's something you do that every time. And, if that's right, you're good for now. Let's move on. If it's not, you got work to do. It's as simple as that.
Sure.
So, it's just stuff like that what you guys learn in this school. If you get a chance, go to Racelogic VIP. You can purchase the online classes. You can pick it up if you want it for street stocks. I think you still have your IMCA stock car classes up there, your crate late models. If you want to learn about 4-link rear ends, I know you cover a lot of that in the crate late model school. That would be helpful as well as that. I mean, do you still have any modified classes up yet or anything like that?
No, it's been a couple of years. The year before we started doing the online, I done a modified deal. It's probably about time to get back in that world. There's just so many people have done them through the years. We tried to do one out west, and somebody kind of jumped on top of us and done one the same weekend. I think you'll remember that little scenario.
Yeah.
I haven't done one, but that's something we need to get back to doing for sure.
Well, that's what I went to. I went through the modified 4-link class, and I talked to you ahead of time, and Kelly and those guys took the time because our car's a 3-link, but the rest of it, it's a modified, everything front end. And I mean, I learned a lot. And when we got to the 4-link, I just sat there and looked lost because I had no idea what a 4-link was. So it didn't bother me none. They answered the questions I had about, 3-link stuff. So it worked out great. So, yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time. We're right at the hour mark. I think we'll cut her off here tonight. And thank you very much.
I appreciate it. And like I said, guys, just go to, friend my page, Racelogic Chassis School, and keep up with what we got going on. And racelogic.vip if anybody wants to look at buying the online version. Roy, I appreciate your time. If I can help any of the racers out there, just contact me on Facebook or get with Roy, and I'll try to do my best to help you guys out.
Yeah, if you need contact information for him, you can always message the page. Chase, message me. So thanks, guys. Have a good night. Appreciate everybody watching.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. Hang tight there for